Here in the States, facing the highest gas price since Hurricane Katrina, our president is contemplating tapping the nation's oil reserves. Really? A very dangerous Band-Aid. Where's the permanent solutions like drilling here, drilling now? Hey, Mr. President, don't worry. They're not going to have to drill your golf course. Joining me now is former president of Shell Oil, John Hofmeister, and Skyping in is Trends Research founder Gerald Celente. John, you've been suggesting that dueling corner gas stations are taking advantage of the situations by gouging. But I got to tell you, whenever you see those shots fired at Leland over his head, and then today we heard the Saudi Arabian government shooting on its own people, prices are going to jump. Is that right?
Well, anytime we have more turmoil or turbulence or uncertainty, we're going to see people who need oil in the future get more and more nervous. So yes, they're going to be building up the price to make sure they get deliveries. They don't care as much about cost as they do making sure they get delivery. That's what pushes the prices up.
What if this does spread? John, tomorrow we have the Day of Rage in Saudi Arabia. What if this thing does erupt like a Cairo or Libya in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh?
Well, if the extent to which there's a large turnout, the extent to which the government is repressive, those are the two things to watch. Size of turnout and a level of repression. The more of that takes place, the more nervous we should be, because that could spread. You know, people don't like to be repressed, and if there's a lot of people turning out, maybe they should just let them express themselves and then go home.
All right.
But if there's a lot of repression, then we have a bigger problem.
All right, Gerald Celente, over to you. You predicted some of this stuff. Didn't you predict some sort of uprising in the Middle East and maybe it's spreading?
Yes. What we're really looking at is you're looking at one flashpoint after another, and it's going to go much further than this. Watch this summer. It's going to move into Europe. It's the same fundamentals. High unemployment, high youth unemployment, corruption at the top. My saying is when the money stops flowing down to the man on the street, the blood starts flowing in the streets. So when you put it all together, high unemployment, rising prices, you well know commodity prices, food prices are at all-time highs. You're looking at people losing their jobs and young people having degrees in worthlessness. And, of course, it's going to continue. And when we talk about the oil prices, I mean, you're an oil guy. You're a market man. And you know the old saying, what drives it? Greed and fear.
Fear and greed.
And you got both of them.
Fear and greed, absolutely. You're 100% right. Sir, Smitty, let me bring it out to you. But, boy, when you add Saudi Arabia into the mix, whole new ball game.
Yeah, we could handle losing Libyan, obviously, production there. We've already seen the markets weather that storm. But when you start to talk about Saudi Arabia, this is huge news. The fact that Saudi Arabian government is now shooting at their own protesters, they're shooting at their own people. This could cause an uproar. Saudi Arabia, obviously the biggest producer over there. When we were fearing Libya, that was 14th on the OPEC list. But Eric, the bottom line is when we start talking about tapping the strategic petroleum reserves, President Obama throwing this around, this is a political move. That is not the intended reason or the intention of the SPR. The SPR is there if we get a supply shock or if we get a disruption in production or their supplies are short, then we go tap into that. We have plentiful supplies at this very moment, short term. Longer term, drill baby drill, but you don't tap the SPR as a political maneuver or just out of fear.
John, the former Shell Oil CEO, what do you think of tapping the SPR?
Well, it's completely a useless activity. I agree it would be a political move and a political move only. All the refineries that are near the Strategic Petroleum Reserve have plenty of crude oil. And it's not just in storage, it's coming in. We have more crude oil today in the United States than we actually need. Inventories are pretty high. So who would take the oil? Nobody would need it. The only way they would take it is if it was heavily discounted, which means that the taxpayers would end up subsidizing the oil from the petroleum reserve to give to the refiners. That's just an unpalatable situation.
Gerald Celente, we're going to leave the segment with you. Last words. What's the most important country over there in the Middle East? If this spreads, you're predicting a spread throughout the summer, what do we have to fear the most?
Oh, Saudi Arabia, there's no question about it, as all the oil experts know. And what else we also have to look at here is that this is really the beginning of the first great war of the 21st century. This is not a one-off. It's not about Libya. It's not about Yemen. It's not about Egypt. It's about the global Ponzi scheme collapsing. And it's going to be much bigger. And when we talk about oil in the U.S., let's not forget, It's Europe also. Where are they getting their oil from? A lot of it from Libya.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. We're going to say thank you very much to John Hoffmeister and Gerald.